just be wary of how you're operationalizing the term MOOC and how you're operationalizing the term success and what are those ramifications. So, questions?
Is there really any qualitative research other than interviews? Because I've seen a lot of qualitative interview studies, but I haven't seen any qualitative studies of the actual online participation. You know, fairly?
So if you're more than welcome to contact Lori at MIT. So the last part of their NSF grant takes the qualitative or the actual discussion board comments, and they're running that through their qualitative software. I'm not sure which type, but she's an asset. She runs the Teaching and Learning Center at MIT, and this grant is a joint effort between them and the Harvard Graduate School of Education. So, yeah, I would defer to her.
In terms of the actual output that students are producing, the essays that they're composing, and the what they actually gain from the courses, what kind of research is being done looking at what they actually wrote and how good it is? Not specifically compared to a person who does in resident, but like how is there research being done?
So I haven't seen it. The Balfour piece presents you with a framework on how to do that, where he basically says that, okay, now that we have these writing samples, which is what his essay is on, is writing within a MOOC context, how are we going to tackle this? Are we going to do it using the automated essay scoring, which is what ETS uses, it's what Pearson uses, or, and this is sort of what Coursera is tiptoeing on eggshells on, is the calibrated peer review. And in that instance, you and I serve as peer graders for reader number 3, or student number 3, as opposed to the AES, which is you take 100 essays, and those are calibrated in a different way using multiple raters. And then once those algorithms are set, then all of the assignments and/or essays are run through that. So it's again, how in the world do we tackle this degrading on such a large scale? But all he does is presents a framework. I have not seen anybody that's actually run this study. The closest one I've seen is the one that I mentioned, where they're taking the discussion board content to analyze.
If you use that peer review system, don't you sacrifice all hope for consistency in grading?
So he's got some interesting comments in there. They run inter-rater reliability statistics. One of the things that they had found in there was that the software is actually more consistent on rating than the human raters themselves. So yeah, I do have a little bit of I find it stimulating and a learning experience that students could have the ability to rate and grade their peers. There's learning in that.
There is.
But I don't know if that's how I want to base the final outcome of the course on that.
I mean, there's learning in that, but there's so much subjectivity as well.
Correct.
And students are sort of at the mercy of whomever they find peer grading their work. And,
yeah, so you end up with this tension of, okay, we want to scale this. Okay, now how do I maintain quality?
exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. And these are the same challenges, mind you, that Phoenix, Strayer, Sarasota, Liberty, everybody else faces that chooses to ramp up their enrollments.
If I were a student in a MOOC and I were just taking it for fun, for personal enrichment, I wouldn't mind having my work peer graded. But if I were trying to achieve some sort of certification, or if my career depended on this, then yes, I would mind. Because again, I don't know who's grading my work, what sort of qualification that person has, and if my grade is going to, or if my result is going to be, affected negatively by having that peer reviewer versus another one. You know what I'm saying?
I would, let me go back to your question. Let's say that you're interested in research on writing, I would encourage you to contact Steve. I mean, all of the authors and I continue to debate about this to this day. Where I even emailed Lori this morning and said, hey, just pulled the stats, 7,100 people have accessed your article in the last 4 months. I'm like, there are journals that don't see that much traffic in a year, let alone one article. So it's they're still trying to get their heads around this. If you're doing work in this area, please, I would encourage you to contact them.
The attrition rates are so dramatic, and do people put them in any context? Are there any other comparable learning scenes where there have been attrition decline like that?
The problem with this is, and both journals' issues address this, is there's no barriers to entry. So I'm not paying a fee, I'm not getting through an admissions committee, I can just go in and I can work.
So the attrition rate seems crazy for you here at UVA. So I'm from Argentina. So in Argentina, education is a right. That means that in my university, there is no admission test. There is no fee. So it's very similar in those sense to a MOOC. And there is no quota in how many students can sign up for a class. So if a class is this size and only can seat 100 students, and 1,000 students sign up, the 1,000 students take the test, but the first 100 get to sit in the classroom. So you need to get there like at 6 in the morning for a 7:30 in the morning class. The dropout rate for the School of Economics is something like 86%.
Wow. Very interesting perspective comparison. That's helpful.
Yes, if you compare it with UVA, of course.
Very, very interesting.
And that might be a good lead-in.
That might be a good lead-in to Ignacia's presentation. Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Thank you very much, Josh.
Okay, so I'm going to talk a little bit about my research and how we can use MOOCs as a massive laboratory. The thing is, like, if you are interested in studying education, you typically don't observe student effort, and that makes it very difficult to get inside the black box of student learning and educational achievement process. So how is that the student is producing his achievement? How important is effort? How important are other things like his own capacity that he's born with? So it's very hard to distinguish the effect of actions, inherent abilities, or some pre-existing actions. But with online courses and the mass of data that these online courses are generating, we can get a lot of information that can help us answer questions that before we were not able to answer. But big data has a lot of challenges, so let's start with the challenges. So the first challenge that I had when I started working with this is that these are huge databases, and that they have individual level information, so therefore they need to be in a secure space, so you cannot have this in your own laptop. So UVA has a secure space, but they didn't have a secure space with the requirements that you need to work with Coursera data. For example, the database system that you have in the ITS cluster can manage limited files that have like 100 megabytes of size. For a single course, one single file, the clickstream file for the modern history course is 16 gigabytes. And that's just one file. You need to add the SQL down. So we're talking about big data just for one course. If you want to link, it gets even bigger. So analyzing just one course is a lot of data. So simple tasks as reading the data or merging tables can take days. The first time I tried to read the clickstream data for a business class that the file was like 5 or 6 gigabytes, it took like 2 days, which is something that you cannot deal with. It's like if you're going to get data every week and you want to process that data very quickly, you need to make that happen faster. So basically what we decided is that the thing to do was to parallelize that. So you take that huge file, you split that file into 800 parts, and you send 800 different jobs to the cluster that the university has. So each node at the cluster is going to do just a little part of the job. So we went from days to just a few hours. So there are challenges that we're going to face. Right now we are looking at just one course at the time. if we start wanting to link the files that we have, we want to link all the UVA courses, we're going to have to upgrade the hardware that we have, and we're going to have to upgrade the software. So the people that, at the Tiger team that is giving me advice about this is thinking instead of using MySQL, that is what Coursera is using, to use NoSQL, and instead of using R, to buy the commercial version produced by Revolution Analytics that is designed specifically for big data. Okay, so now I'm going to talk a little bit about one course. It's a business course that started last year, no, this year, that's a few months ago, I guess. It lasts only 6 weeks, and it gave only one step of accomplishment. So in Coursera, you have a few different versions of certificate you can get. This was the plain one. There are different versions where you can get a recognition if you're in the top 10% of the class or something like that. And there are signature tracks that UVA is not considering doing right now. So in this particular course, getting the statement of accomplishment requires a lot of work. So in each individual course quiz, you need to have 90% or better. And you need to submit a final project and have at least 50 points. That's a peer-graded final project. And you needed to grade 5 projects from your peers. That in order to get the certificate. So it's like a lot of work to get this piece of paper, which value we don't really know what is. Another characteristic, each instructor can do whatever they want in their course. In this particular course, you could take the quiz as many times as you wanted. So that's going to be interesting. So let's think a little bit about achievement. Wow. So 84,000 students were enrolled. But that number is very meaningless. So less than 2,000 got the statement of accomplishment. So if you think about that 84,000, that means like 2%. But people enroll just to take a look. So they just sign up, take a quick look at the video, take a quick look at the quiz, and that's about it. So let's look. 11,000 people actually attempted the first quiz. So that means of the people who attempt the first quiz, 70% of them are getting the statement of accomplishment. And 4,000 people attempted the very last quiz. So that means that of people who got to the last quiz, attempted that quiz, a little less than 50% get the statement of accomplishment. So the thing is like, which is the population that you're trying to study? Okay, so let's look at, yeah.
So part of getting to the certificate really just means kind of staying with the class, showing up, following through, you know.
Yes. So I actually show that being on track, so keeping so in a paper I show that being on track is very important. You perform much better if you're on track with the class. So you have the option here. You can take all the quizzes the very last day. And I'm going to show you a little bit about that later. So this is the first attempt. So the red line is the median of the class, and the dotted line is what you need to pass. So in their first attempt, very, very few people were actually passing this quiz. So if we look at their best attempt, the pass rate is 66%. So people try many, many times. So this is, the title is wrong. This is how many times they're attempting. On average, students were attempting, I'm sorry I'm using the word students, and they're users, students. So I'm going to keep calling them students for now, or learners. They're attempting the quiz 2.5 times. Some people are attempting the quiz like 37 times. And this is a quiz that has 10 multiple choice questions with 4 options. So let's look at the very last quiz. Again, the median is 5, and you need a 9 to pass in the first attempt. But by the last attempt, a lot of people end up passing this quiz. A lot of people don't pass, so it's like 80% pass rate. Okay, so what are they doing between their first attempt and their best attempt? So I want to see how many seconds are passing. So for 25% of the people, only 343 seconds pass between their first attempt and their best attempt.
So you have to pass it in the first attempt in order to get the statement of accomplishment?
No, you can, in your first attempt you can get a 0. What is important is that in your best attempt you get 9 or more. Okay? So here I'm looking what you're doing, how many seconds are passing between your first attempt and your last attempt, to see if they are just randomly selecting questions, answers, or they're trying to learn. And you see that some time passed, so they're probably trying to learn. So the question is, what are they doing in that time? And we can see that. We can see if they're watching videos, if they're spending time in the forums. So let's look at how many times they press play before attempting the quiz for the first time. So a lot of people never press play, and they attempt the quiz. There are people who are like pressing plays like 30 times. So we could look at correlations of how many times you're pressing play and how you're doing in the quiz, but those will be just correlations. Let's take a look at the forums. So how many threads are you reading the forum? So a lot of people, they never read anything and they just go to the quiz, but people are reading some stuff before attempting the quiz for the first time. So in this particular course, like 2,679 threads were created. So these are individual threads. So let's do some correlations. Let's think about correlations. The population is the students who are attempting the quiz 1 more than one time. And I define readers as those who have total views in the forums more than one, and no readers and those who are not reading forums at all. And then I look at how much they're improving between their first attempt and their last attempt. And you see, okay, people who are reading the forums are improving more than people who are not reading the forums. But this is just correlation. We cannot say that they're improving more because they're reading the forum. So that's a question. Is that something that they're going to learn or not? And we can actually answer that using Coursera as a laboratory. So watching videos, same thing. I define, are you watching or not between your first attempt and your best attempt? Are you watching videos? So I can see that people who actually go and watch videos between their first attempt and their best attempt actually improve more than people who don't watch videos. But again, this is just a correlation. So more fun correlations. Let's think about procrastination. This is when you attempt the quiz for the first time, and what is your best grade. So if you attempt the quiz for the first time before the second quiz is published, you're going to do much better, and this is correlation only, than people who are procrastinating. So we see that procrastinators tend to do worse. So is this just a selection thing, or is something else? It's something I'm working with people at the University of Michigan. So we're running an experiment in which we are encouraging people to keep on track. And now we're going to be able to see if people who get the encouragement actually keep on track, and we're going to be able to identify the effect of staying on track on the course. Okay? So the experiment I'm going to talk right now is the one I did with the business strategy course, so the second edition of the course I just talked about. I sent 2 emails to different people. In one version of the email is the blue part. So I'm telling you the grade that you got in the first quiz, and I'm telling you how many people are doing worse than you. Sorry, are doing better than you. In the second version of the email, I'm telling you the grade that you got, and I'm telling you how many people are doing worse. Okay? And this email was sent the day after the third quiz was published. So what I find is that these very low interventions, the cost of sending an email is basically 0. But with this nudge, we can make students exert more effort. Okay? We find that more effort can be translated into higher achievement. And we also find something that is fun, that if you say you are doing worse than this percentage, you are going to exert even more effort. So framing is important. Finally, we find that treatment is going to have different effects among different groups of population. So this is something great about MOOCs. We have so many students, and we see so many things about them, that we can take a look at this very specific population. So in the future, if we were to look at all the students from Coursera, we will have a lot of information, and we will see you through many different courses. We could have very specific nudges for you that will be very different than for someone else. So that's where we want to get. We want to get to personalized nudges. Okay, so let's look at the third quiz. So treatment 1 is the positive nudge, treatment 2 is the negative nudge. So we see that people in the treatment group 1 are increasing the number of attempts for both groups, and that's statistically significant. And we see that people in treatment 2 are and improving the ranking, and that is statistically significant. Okay? So this is, I'm looking at students who got this email versus students who didn't get this email. Now, let's take a look at a subgroup of this population. So now I'm going to look only at students who are on track. That means that you are going to take quiz 1 before quiz 2 is published and quiz 2 before quiz 3 is published, etc. So for these people, getting treatment 2, people in this treatment group are improving the ranking by 10%. So if people in the control group, they perform poorly in the first quiz, they are on track, they are doing better than 12% of the class. But if you got the email, you end up doing better than 23% of the class. So it's a big improvement. Another thing is like, I'm sending this email, and that doesn't mean that you're actually reading it. So I can actually see that 40% of the people are opening the email. I don't know if they're reading, but they're opening. So if you take that into account, that effect is much bigger. Okay? So the effect of the treatment is actually much bigger than 10% because a lot of people are not even reading the email. So if Coursera were to have a pop-out instead of just an email, more people will read it, maybe the effect will be bigger. I'm signing the email as the MOOC, University of Virginia MOOC research team. If instead of me signing the email, the professor were to sign the email, maybe the effect will be bigger because they will listen more to him than to me.
I wonder if I could interrupt you for a minute.
Yes.
It's a fascinating presentation of the kind of research and analysis that can be done of student engagement. I'm just a little bit, we're approaching the end of our allotted time, and I wonder if you would mind if we open this up to more discussion just for the last few minutes. Is that
Yeah,
possible?
absolutely. We can move to discussion. Whatever question you can ask that.
My question was, you're measuring how they're doing vis-a-vis the rest of the class after the email. But you're not really measuring, are you measuring them in absolute terms or just you're doing better than 70% or better than 60%?
Oh, got, so the email that I send them, so basically I say, okay, you got 7 in the quiz. That means that you are doing worse than 70% of the class.
Yeah, and after they opened the mail, the slide that you showed us on the impact that the email had.
Yes, so this stuff. So this stuff is the grade that you got in the third, so the max grade is your best grade in your best attempt in quiz 3. And ranking is the percentile in which you are.
Okay.
So 22 means that 22% of people are doing worse than you. So on average, people who were assigned to treatment 2 are doing better than 22% of the class. People in the control group, that's people who didn't get any email, on average, are doing better than 13% of the class.
Right.
Okay?
So the control group didn't receive any email,
Yeah.
not just like a standard.
No, the control group didn't receive any email.
Question over here.
Yeah, a trivial but maybe not relevant question. So who paid this course?
Who picked this course?
Who paid? I mean, how does the instructor earn money from this kind of program?
Oh, that's something that Kristin can answer. I think it's pro bono. It's like because they love to teach.
So it's just like a volunteering teaching?
Yeah, there's no remuneration for the professors at the Dartmouth School of Business. They might still mark their books.
Huh. So it's like a volunteering for instructors who are willing to. So those instructors spend extra time and offer free courses to the public.
Yeah, like teaching to a global audience is probably a very nice experience, and being one of the first ones of doing it, we're going to be in the book of history. So there is a lot of non-pecuniary benefits to teaching.
Okay. I mean, then.
And I would say every faculty member that's completed a MOOC at U.Va has said that it was one of the highlights of their teaching career.
Wow.
And you can even, Bruce was here, right? So not everybody here was here when Bruce was taught, or when Carol taught. And then Carol, where do you think Bruce is at?
right now.
Enthusiastic, right?
No, I think he's loving it. He seems to be really enjoying it. Yeah. Just the enthusiasm, the warmth from everyone who's participating. It's amazing. I mean, just being in it.
Yeah. I have a quote. I just was going through email, and one of our professors is like, "This is like cocaine. It's totally addictive." Because it's this intellectual dialogue across thousands of people about topics that you're passionate about. You think you've learned your most? You take your doctorate, you're moving on, you're the professor, and all of a sudden this floodgate opens of this global dialogue that you're leading on the topic that you love. It's pretty powerful.
I see.
That's fantastic.
Hire that.
That's wonderful, and perhaps on that note, we should wrap things up since we've officially reached the end of our time. People can obviously continue the discussion. Thank you so much to our panelists. That was wonderful. And Brendan, do you want to say a word about the closing event?
Yeah, I mean, just across the street at Boylan Heights. Sorry, Kristin. There's a, if you want to come, you're welcome.
It's 75 and sunny. I'll see you in December.
There's a reception at Boylan Heights with food and drink, so hopefully we can continue the conversation.